Welcome to the demon world. It's full of horror and darkness. Death awaits you at every turn. Even the rivers have acid instead of water. The fate of the world is being decided today. The final battle of an endlessly long war. Humanity finally has a chance to end it all. On the throne in the demon castle sat a certain entity that was powered by energy from an incredibly strong crystal. The entity sitting there must be the Demon King, and only one man can defeat him. The Demon King was the most formidable foe in all the world. He did not know what kindness, love, and mercy were. The mere sight of him made people faint. When the demon saw the man in front of him, he said, "I wonder if you've gotten too far for a human. But it's not over yet. There's a battle ahead of you." Suddenly, the soulless stone statues that were standing around came to life. Their only goal was to kill the hero. They ran at him to tear him to pieces. Who is this incredibly funny man who single-handedly decided to fight an army of demons led by their king? However, he was not an ordinary man with unique magic. He knew there was a battle waiting for him here, and he was ready, who had gathered all his strength. He decided to attack them first. A bright orange pentagram formed around his hands. Well, it wasn't his only weapon. He hid the trump in his sleeve. From behind his back, he pulled out revolvers. Now, the demons certainly don't have a hard chance at victory. Engage. Target identification. What's up? Let's go kill some demons. With his first attack, he took out several demons at once. It was like he did it every day. He took demons' heads off one by one. His weapons had incredible destructive power, and he was an excellent shot. From the top, it'll be easier to see how many there are and deal with them as quickly as possible, especially since they won't be able to get it up there. "Explosive acceleration," shouted our hero, and a hail of bullets rained down from the sky, destroying everything in its path. The demons were furious that they couldn't do anything about it. He thought he had fewer warriors. But now that he does, it's time to deal with them sooner rather than later. The dance of the four lights. His speed increased by leaps and bounds, along with his theme and attack power. Just as suddenly, he thought something terrible was happening behind him. The demon was concentrating its energy to kill our hero. Its aura was disgusting, but still incredibly strong. And so, he attacked him. His blow created a huge crater and the ground cracked. But when the dust cloud settled, the demon saw he missed. Its attack failed to reach the hero. The demon didn't even have time to raise his head before suddenly there was already a barrel in front of his face. With a smirk on his face, our hero says, "Goodbye, asshole. Demon King. Just watch his army lose. Of 1,000 of the greatest demons, all that's left is a pile of burning ash. And only one hero could do it. It's time for the Demon King to do battle, and show what he can do." When the hero saw him, he said, "He's finally out." He knew perfectly well who stood before him, but you couldn't tell he was scared. Suddenly, a huge scythe appeared in the hands of the Demon King. Its size was unbelievable. To wield such a weapon, one must have divine power. Here they are face to face. The fate of all mankind rests on the shoulders of this young boy. What? The Demon King is going into battle mode and opening his third eye. With a swing of his scythe, he sliced through space. If this attack hits its target, the hero will not survive. The speed of his attack was many times faster than the speed of light. But, thank heavens, our hero was able to dodge it. But if he keeps it up, he won't be able to fight it off. The blob of energy the scythe created hit the rock behind our hero. The explosion was so powerful that it could be compared to the strongest earthquake. Seeing this, the hero says, "If it gets to me, I'll die. I have to be very careful." When suddenly, the Demon King was already in front of him. Our hero tries at the last moment to block his shot. He was thrown backwards by the force of the blow. He struggled to his feet with all his might. Not even a second later, the Demon King attacks him again. This time there's no way to block the blow. All that's left is to duck, and once again, the demon's punch misses. The hero's speed is astonishing. Realizing that this couldn't go on any longer, he decided to attack him, but they were completely useless. The Demon King speaks. "You think your pathetic attacks are going to work on me? But the Demon King's protective barrier can't be broken that easily." The hero realized he needed a new plan. And then he remembers the old legend that if you hit the dark stone in his forehead, only then you can damage it. "We have a plan. Now we just have to figure out how to break through his barrier." But there's no time for reflection. No matter how our hero tried to break through the Demon King's barrier, it was useless. His gun lacked power. When all of a sudden, the Demon King says, "You're just a fool. Our abilities are on different levels." In his hand concentrated a blob of dark matter. The power of such an attack could surpass that of 1,000 nuclear bombs. After gathering enough energy, the king attacked him again. The only way out is to break through his barrier. We must keep attacking. But the dark matter bombs were too fast to counter them. We have to dodge. The more he dodged, the more tired he became, and the slower he became. And speed is the only trump card that can play a major role in their battle. "Shit!" shouted our hero. One of the bombs hit him. From that blow, his guns fell out of his hands, so now he's not only wounded, he's unarmed. The Demon King walks up to him and tastes victory, says, "You're just pathetic. No matter how hard you try, you can't even scratch me." As the hero suddenly shouted out, "Are you sure? How about a bet?" Above him, a teleportation pentagram appeared. Out of it, the hero pulls out a huge rifle, and he says, "Now let's see how this battle ends." Wasn't this all part of his plan? Fire ray! Our hero mimics the earth and fires a shot in seconds. That appears right on target. He finally hit the Dark Stone. The Demon King clearly didn't expect this. After the hero's successful attack, this stone cracked. Along with the stone, his barrier cracked. The angry king shouts at him, "You wretched worm!" That shot obviously wounded him, but it made him even angrier. "I'm gonna wipe you out," screams the demon. He tries to grab our hero with his aura. The boy, he didn't understand a thing at all. Darkness enveloped his head. When the darkness almost completely overpowered the hero, he suddenly broke free and screamed, "Now I'm separated from you." He fired on the Demon King again and again, even though he was in a barrier. The hero thought, if he doesn't leave the country, I'll make him do it. Increased power, accelerated attack. Now its application is even stronger and even faster. The hero realized if he aimed all his blows at the crack in the barrier then, he would succeed in destroying it. His attacks were endless. The explosions were incredibly powerful. His armor was still standing but weakened considerably. The hero decided it was time to finish him off. It's time for his strongest attack, Judgment Dawn. The speed of this attack was staggering, the human eye unable to notice it. Finally, the hero was able to break through the Demon King's protective barrier. But the bullet did not stop there. It was like the first ray of sunshine moving forward. The darkness that captured the hero began to gradually flutter, which means that the demon is dead, and if he survived, he was badly wounded. The dark crystal has been destroyed, which means the Demon King has been stripped of his powers. He screamed furiously in pain. "How do you so flee?" Lightning started flashing from the shattered crystal. But now is not the time to relax. The hero grabbed the pistols he dropped earlier and soared above the demon. It was already clear how this battle would end. Before the final shot, the hero tells him, "Do you have any idea how long I've been playing World 2.0? As a result, the Demon King was very surprised. But he had no time to say anything, as the hero finished him off. After taking down the demon's head, the hero says, "It was fun, but fuck it." The hero was badly exhausted from the battle, however very happy with the result. That's it. Game over. I didn't think magic skills could be that good. So in order to have a good time with magic, I'll use a character from the New World 3.0 update mages added in this update. However, if he were just a simple magician, it would be boring, right? World's Karma system created a special magician. This is a system where the player receives penalties in exchange for bonuses. I don't usually use this karma system because of the high risks involved. If you earn these penalty characteristics, you can get an additional skill. If it is possible to get all magic characteristics of the maximum level, I'll be the greatest magician in history, funny and curious. At this rate, the character will be sick to his stomach, because there would be a lot of penalties. Someone yells, "Renok! Renok!" From those screams, the Renok woke up in a cold sweat. My last memory is the loading screen before starting the game. As soon as the download finished, the screen went black. I immediately lost consciousness and thought that the earth was falling away under my feet. It was like I was being sucked into something. Suddenly, Renok is grabbed by his shirt and lifted out of bed. He is terrified, not realizing where he is and what is happening. All he sees in front of him is an unknown man who is yelling and about to hit him. Shouting, "Time to get up, and hurry up!" The man punched the renegade right in the face. The blow was so hard, the guy even fell off the bed. He looked around and saw a crowd of oddly dressed guys in front of him. It felt like he was in a military camp, when all of a sudden, this guy starts yelling like crazy again. "Fucking idiot! It's work time and you're asleep. Maybe I'll give you a good kicking, you little brat." Finally, the old man's finally calmed down. He said he's waiting for him in the conference room. The other men in the room started laughing at him and saying, "What an idiot. He slept until the probation worker came. Don't worry about him. The kid will die soon. But then the probation worker will get it too. It's like if you lay a finger on him, he's done. So this guy, huh?" However, Wang saw something special in him. He had a feeling that the Renok wasn't so hopeless. The warden started yelling again, but this time at everyone. "You brainless idiots, move." No one wanted to quarrel with the warden, so everyone quickly carried out his orders. A young boy witnessed an interesting conversation between Van and the warden. "Look, Van, you ordered what I asked for, right?" "Yeah. I'll give it to you as soon as it arrives." "Raynok, huh? But that's the character I created in the game. Somehow, I must have become him in real life. It's been 3 days since I woke up in this place. It was like a factory. I still don't understand a lot of things, but I got used to working in a factory pretty quickly. Here we have to get up before sunrise and work until we are exhausted. Before going to bed, we are given porridge, which is more like slop. The workers refuse to act on my questions. Some are simply afraid of the warden. But a lot of people don't want to talk because they've already written me off as a dead man. And to be honest, I can't say they're that far from the truth. With a weak body, such a difficult thing will last even a week. Suddenly, the overseer shouted across the shop floor, "What the hell are you doing here?" The warden had a rubber truncheon in his hands, which he did not hesitate to use at every opportunity. "Raynok, you're a useless idiot if you don't get up now." Suddenly, Renoka's cough interrupted him. From the looks of it, he was in a very bad way. The warden and the van, seeing how badly the Raynok was coughing, were greatly surprised and concerned. Not wanting to make a fuss, the overseer ordered Van to put him somewhere far away so he wouldn't see him. Not wanting to make a Raynok, felt that he had a high fever. However, even in such a situation, he was able to keep his sanity. Apparently, it was because of the willpower he had put into his character. Fuss, the overseer ordered Van to put him somewhere far away so he wouldn't see him. The overseer came closer to him and pushed him with his foot, and in a calm voice said to him, "Get up and get out of here." As he walked away, he yelled again throughout the hangar, "We're busy people, you know, so get out. You can measure somewhere quiet." I wonder why Wong is always walking around as a probation worker. Yeah, I'm in pretty bad health. I gotta do something about that. Glad it's a skill fee. If the magic talent level is what I made it in the game, I'll be able to escape, use my powers. That's actually a great plan. But before you try it, you need to find out more about this place, and being ignored is good for me. Chances are no one will even notice my absence. He went through the door from which the warden usually emerges. He saw a dark corridor at the end of which was a door ajar, with rays of light streaming in. Could this be the door that led outside? Looked into it. The Raynok couldn't believe his eyes. He saw some of the crew members standing around and chilling. But after just a few moments, he heard their dialogue. One of them spoke. "The ones they brought in the other day are so slow." Suddenly Van speaks up. "What do you expect from these scum? But if we use them right, we'll reap the benefits. I'm more concerned about whether or not the delivery can be reinstated tomorrow. What are they even going to do with this product?" And then Van says, "And you don't know? They sell our shredder to a black magician. Then there is magic in this world, and I will use it. But what's the right thing to do?" Wong pulls out an obscure object from his pocket that looks like an e-cigarette and says, "You know what this is. It's a body enhancer. Viper. It's the new version from Calvin and Cubs. Is it worth using it following the consequences? A new filter reduces toxicity in the fluid." When he saw this device, the Raynok was very surprised. He thinks they're monitoring Manu thanks to this device. It's amazing what technology has achieved. Now it doesn't take a year of training to harvest mana from natural energy. Suddenly, the Raynok absorbed a large amount of mana. A blue aura enveloped his body, and small lightning bolts began to emit from his eyes. It's like an electric charge went through your body, and it was like the sixth sense took over. It was like a third eye had opened. What? My alter ego. I've never felt anything like this before. I didn't even realize there was something like that. A basic force shaping this world, and a driving force defining existence. Magical energy that flew into the air and entered my body with every breath. A force that was familiar and foreign at the same time. Sure, it's the magic of the world. Thanks to it, I can accomplish anything I want. After the shift was over, when everyone else was asleep, the Rennek was awake. He's a great self, a new self. He knew that. With that mana level, he could have run away from here at any moment. He had heard that the man would be reformed. The union would come in 2 days, and accordingly on that day they would not have time for him. The question remains, is there any way to travel alone and remain inconspicuous? I have to come up with a plan to get them to dump me. That's right, if I put a little light on my forehead. It worked. I think I'm running a fever. His whole body is covered in cold sweat, and at first glance he does seem to be terribly ill. I think it looks like I'm about to die. I hope they leave me alone. Meanwhile, Wong brought the warden his package. Okay, the probation worker ordered a Viper. The warden says to Van, "Well done, good job. You want some while I'm being nice?" "No thanks, I'll abstain. Van replied. But the overseer insisted. He coaxed him. Come on, help yourself. As a thank you for always doing a good job. When all of a sudden, the overseer gets very worried. He says, by the way, that kid who's sitting on the shop floor today looks like he's about to die. Make it neat. You don't want a union member to see that, okay? Van is a little confused when he hears the warden's request. He didn't like it, but he had no other choice. The next morning, the bedroom speakers blared, which meant it was time to get up. All the workers were barely out of bed. Suddenly, a notice sounded on the loudspeakers. Union men are due today, so the wardens will be more brain-dripping than usual. While everyone was getting ready for the shop, Raynok lay in his bed covered in cold sweat. It looked like he was going to die. And that's exactly the result he was trying to achieve. The rest of the workers saw that it had begun to whisper. What's wrong with him? Fever, I guess. I think he's going to move his horse soon. And what if he's dead by lunchtime? What do we do? I can't get rid of the body. And the bald man answers him. And what are you looking at me for? I'm not going to carry a dead body. They decided to get rid of him now before it was too late. The plan worked. When suddenly, out of the blue, Wang walks to Raynok's bedside. Van didn't have the best reputation among the workers. Everyone around me started whispering. Being here like this, the guy's only making us uncomfortable. Seems like he wants to do it clean. When he heard what the workers were whispering about, he thought, what are they talking about? What does it mean to clean me up? When Van came up to him, he reached into his pocket for something. This situation makes him nervous. When suddenly Van grabs him by the shoulder. The boy, terrified, goes off in a huff. He doesn't know what will happen next or what to expect from him. But Van just holds out the Viper and says, hey, take it easy. Take this. It's called a Viper, an active enhancer that temporarily improves physical strength. Leaving, Van says, he should be enough to stay with the topic ahead of you. I wonder what he's talking about. Raynok, sitting on the edge of his bed, decides to try Viper, when suddenly his body began to reappear with a blue aura. The energy is just overflowing. That's probably the effect it's supposed to have. That guy, Van. Wasn't he the one with the errand in the warden's room? The mana level in the Raynok's body was at an all-time low. Due to the recent circumstances, the escape plan is changing slightly. The bottom floor of the loading dock. It is on this floor that the goods from the workshops are loaded into the trucks and dispersed. The gray-haired man says, not much product. Was I expecting too much? By all appearances, this is a union man. One of the shop stewards with a guilty look tells him, no. Suddenly the old man says, hey, remind me again, who owns this factory? We've lightened our workload a little bit because the Human Rights Commission has brought charges. Don't you think you should show your sincerity and all that? Yep. Looks like this factory boss is not a union man. The foreman started bowing and hollering, excuse me, Mr. Warden. As suddenly, the Raynok brings the box to the inspector and with a pained voice tells him, I'm sorry about that. Anyway, I have a case with the director and his office is closed. Could you open it? When suddenly this man became enraged and started yelling at him. Can't you see I'm busy right now? What business? But the Raynok, not out of character, answers him. It's a Viper tangent. As a result, the man didn't hesitate a second to take the keys and say, ha, shit. It's infuriating. He ordered Raynok to follow him. Our hero was surprised that he had persuaded him so easily. Walking down the hall, man says to him, I'm very busy, but tell me, who's the smartass who asked you to move this right now? And move your ass. Who would ever think to entrust something like that to you? Raynok, with his whole look, ordered that he was about to die. Opening the office door, he said, I don't understand why they need this useless thing. Put it on fast and get out of here. Now! Raynok concentrates enough mana to knock him out but not kill him. Raynok put an electrical charge right through his neck. It's incredibly painful, but not fatal. In this business, it's all about not overdoing it. The amount of electricity flowing through his body made the man's mouth foam. A second later, the guy said with relief, I did it, picking up a bunch of keys off the floor. In Raynok's hands was the way to freedom. After getting a better look at Turn On, he shouted out in surprise, shit, are those car keys? Before you can execute your plan, you have to stock up. He started going through all the drawers looking for something he could use, when suddenly he opened one drawer and saw a gun. He's gonna need that. Also, to reduce his visibility, he decided to change his clothes, when suddenly he found a whole crate of Vipers. He sat down on the couch to rest and think. It's an incredible thing, I think. Takes away pain and relieves fatigue in the body. Great, I've got what I need, so now it's time to go. Suddenly, Raynok heard footsteps approaching the door. It was the overseer. Moving closer to the door, he asked, what is that? Viper odor? As he entered the office, he started yelling, "Who decided to vacation there?" A second later, the anger changed to surprise. Or rather, terror. On the floor, he saw his friend with foam pouring out of his mouth. Raynoch decided to ambush the warden. He was going to use the same technique on the warden as he did on the mark. However, the warden was faster than his friend and was able to dodge his attack. He was horrified by what he had seen. In a trembling voice, he asked, "What? Magic? Who are you? What to do?" There's no time left for a new discharge. We have to figure something out right away. After getting a better look at the attacker, the overseer cried out in horror, "Wait! You're a Raynoch?" Feeling superior to him, the warden decided to teach him a lesson, when suddenly Raynoch pulls out a gun and points it at the fleeing warden. He was petrified like a statue for a moment. The warden immediately puts his hands up and says to him with a pathetic look, "Hey, what are you doing?" "Wait, but, Raynoch was serious. "You realize he's about to be finished." The probation worker says, "What are you gonna do? Why don't you calm down and we'll talk calmly?" "Raynoch, I apologize for everything I've done to you." How kind and gentle he became as soon as the gun was at his head. The warden continued to justify himself to him. "I had no other choice. If you don't kill me, I won't tell anyone. Honest." Raynoch was well aware that you couldn't believe a word he said. But he couldn't kill a man. When all of a sudden I hear that scream in the hallway. "Yed, are you there?" Raynoch didn't know what to do in this situation. You can't trust that asshole. And you can't take his life either. The warden begs for his life. He promises to keep his word and not tell anyone about what is happening here. "All right. This door leads to the parking lot. You can get out of there. Let's go quietly before someone comes. It's gonna be bad for you too if you get caught, right?" There was logic in the warden's words. But what should he do? Meanwhile, another warden walks down the hallway and says, "The idiot's snoozing somewhere again." I remember when he said he came to work to beat up other people. When suddenly he decides to look into the office. He is speechless at what he sees. Terror seized his body and he couldn't even move. At the same time, a red car that belonged to Mark comes out of the parking lot at crazy speed. That's the guy the kid electrocuted. When Van sees Mark's car pull out, he asks, "Hey Mark, we got a lot of work to do right now. Where are you going?" When the car window rolled down, Wang got scared. Scared so badly that it stinks. Of course, because Rennick was driving the car and he pulled a gun on him. He threatened to shoot him if he didn't open the gate. Van says in horror, "Yeah, sure, I'll get it, but don't shoot." The barrier, it's starting to open. Here it is. Just a few more meters and freedom. It's done. You can leave. Like, everybody's nice and polite, as soon as you point a gun at them. Van begged him not to kill him, when suddenly the radio started blasting with screams. "Off, off!" The warden who went into the office where Ed and Mark were saw that they were dead. And he started yelling into the radio, "Seal off all exits." I repeat, cover all exits. When the Raynoch hears this, he says, "If I let you live, you're going to be a big problem." Raynoch had no choice if he wanted to escape. He didn't want to do it with all his heart, but he pulled the trigger nonetheless. Inside, the checkpoint was covered in blood. My high spiritual power, warmth, and calmness has conquered the security within me and allows me to stay sane. What? There's another way out? It doesn't matter what stands in the way of my goal, though. A calmness that becomes even stronger in an extreme situation. I was able to escape. He decided to get far away from this damn city. After what he's been through, he can be considered a truly talented magician. Now, we welcome the huge megapolis. Its stunning lights can drive you crazy. Amongst the many giant skyscrapers lurks one very interesting one. This is the headquarters where the players are trained. Someone decided to sneak into this building. The guards tried to stop the intruder by any means possible. However, the man was not deterred by this. He wanted to get out of the building alive. He was even ready to jump out the window, despite the height of the guards were shocked by the act. How could he jump from that height? When suddenly one of them says, "You can't see the body, but no one would have survived a jump from that height. We need to go downstairs and make sure he's dead. We can't let him get away." Welcome to Balkan City, man's greatest creation. Did you the magical and technological city of the Balkans was divided into several separate neighborhoods? The way in which, passing through the gates, Balkan City was perfect for hiding. After all, this city has a population of over 10 million people. Raynoch, looking at the city through the car windshield, thought, "Amazingly, this world is completely different from the one in World 2.0. Also, the whole place is imbued with magic to the core. I feel the familiar power I felt in the factory. This means that there is a huge amount of magical energy in this world." Meanwhile, Raynoch's health was getting worse and worse. He looked more like the Walking Dead than the greatest magician in history. Coming to his senses, Rinuk says to himself, I went a little overboard. Maybe I shouldn't have gone to so much trouble trying to escape. However, in an emergency it was grabbed with him. A small supply of Viper. After thinking about it for a bit, he decides that he won't use them, because in the future he won't even be able to get out of his chair without using them. He was well aware that the Viper should only be used in the most extreme of emergencies. But before we make any further plans, we need a good night's rest. While driving along the highways, he notices a nice hotel nearby and decides to stay there. Upon entering the room, Raynok almost fainted, but still managed to stay on his feet. It took him an hour to get to this spot to make sure there was no tail, and had to give up the car, even though he loved it. But now he'll finally be able to rest. He couldn't even make it to the bed. After taking only one step, he faints and falls to the floor like a stone. So he went down for about 5 hours before Thirsty woke him up. Looking for a bottle of water, Raynok naturally came to the kitchen. His head was bursting with pain from such extreme fatigue. From the minibar, got a bottle of water. His thirst was so independent that he tried to drink that can in one go. He started to feel much better after that, when he suddenly vomited. But that's not surprising, because at the factory he had eaten nothing but waste. Seat on the floor. My head is about to explode. My muscles ache and tear apart. Something has to be done about this. His hands were shaking. Apparently it's a side effect of the Viper, but if he wants to move this body, he has no choice but to rely on the stimulator for now. After throwing up the rest of his food, he felt very hungry. His stomach ached more and more. The last time he ate was 12 hours ago. Of what was in the fridge was canned food, which tasted not great, but better than nothing. When suddenly the phone rang. Raynok was very surprised. No one knows he's here. Picking up the phone, the cute girl tells him, "Good morning, dear sir. You have 2 hours left to pay for your room." The girl asks the renegade, "Want to extend your stay here?" He doesn't hesitate long before answering, "Yes." There's nowhere else to go. The total bill is $22,000 sell. $200,000 for lodging and $20,000 for canned goods. With your prepayment of $100,000, the balance is $120,000 sell. To pay what you need to pay today. Otherwise, if you get evicted. When Raynok heard how much canned food costs, he was shocked. Why it was so expensive. To deliver all his money, he thought, I have 130,000 selves on my hands. And after payment, I have 10,000 left. That's not even enough money to pay for a day's stay in a hotel. He's got to come up with something. He can't even buy food with 10,000. But first things first. You should clean yourself up before you go out. The first thing he did was to cut his hair. His hair looked more like straw than hair. Seeing himself in the mirror, he thought, that'll do. I wonder if anyone I know will recognize me. The next day, the market decided to walk around the city, hoping to meet some of my acquaintances. But I didn't even have enough strength to walk 100 meters without resting. When he was once again on vacation, he began to consider where to get money. He realizes that he can't make money legally in this world. He's a fugitive. Renoku gets an idea. The best way would be to beat up the criminals and take their money. I don't think that would be a problem. You should gather enough information about the antechamber world before you act. Using his magical abilities, the Renuk began to absorb natural energy and with it, information. I heard that the engineer at Palmer's who was checking the new 2 for bugs is missing. We'll have to find a replacement. He's looking for an agency to lobby for the selection of the 17th Neighborhood Construction Company. And the profit-sharing provisions in an 8-2 win? Are there any druids out there that are involved in green belt reduction? I want to leave an application, and I'm thinking of getting an endangered species of T9. But that was it. It was useless talk that didn't help the Renok in any way. Suddenly, he heard someone extorting money. This is it, he thought. Renok was already ready to get down to business when suddenly his head began to hurt incredibly badly. Damn body, it can't even take the most basic exertion. But Renok, in his pocket, had a stimulant. Using it, he felt a surge of incredible power. It's time to make money. Meanwhile, there was a real fight in the alley. The bandits were just mocking the guy. They threw him into a pile of garbage. One of them says, "Hey, remember what I told you? I thought you said that we wouldn't have any problems this time." The guy's face was already covered in scratches and bruises. Suddenly, one of the thugs starts kicking and screaming at the guy. "Except I heard from you that you lost the money we stole." This guy starts making excuses and says, "Yeah. Listen to me. I'm not lying. They just disappeared." When suddenly, the second robber speaks. "Look, this isn't going to solve anything. To recoup the money we lost, let's sell it in pieces." This guy is clearly in a lot of trouble. A guy sitting in a pile of garbage, begging to be spared. Suddenly he's screaming all over the alley. "Help me, please! At his scream, a Renok came running. He struck the bandits with electricity. Everything around him lit up with a bright blue light when the renegade fried those idiots. He said with a smirk on his face, "It's a piece of cake. Why were you yelling like that?" This poor man did not understand anything. His voice trembled with fear. But he asked nonetheless, "How did you do it? How did you save me?" But Renok didn't care about him. He just wanted money. After searching the bandits, Renok found 700,000. But the question is, how much is it? But in any case, now he can buy some clothes or medicine. When suddenly he decided to reach into another pocket. He pulled out an object that looked like a pen. Seeing him, the battered guy yells out, "Please don't point it at me." After taking a closer look at the object, Renok realized that it was a modification of a laser cutter. It had been illegally altered to become a weapon. The kid decides to take it with him. After all, the more self-defense he has, the better. When suddenly Renok speaks up, "What you just saw." But the guy immediately interrupts him and says, "I get it. I won't tell anyone." But his eyes started to glow a bright blue color, and he had a slight smile on his face. And then he says, Yeah. Everybody says that. A guy asks to be kept alive and promises to do whatever he asks. Renok briefly tells him. Then the answer to the question, "Do you know what there is to do around here without an ID?" "'Cause I'm new in town." That same evening, Renok comes to the bar. However, if you take that guy's word for it, it's just a cover-up, because he's about to walk into a room full of beaten bandits. He decides it's worth hiding his identity. Renok changed himself beyond recognition. In this world, you can only rely on yourself, inside as well as out. It looked like a very ordinary bar with local drunks. Renok entered the bar and surprised the old bartender. He had never seen him before, and new people don't go to this bar. He asked for the bar and asked me to pour him something lighter. In the classic genre, the bartender pours him a whiskey on the rocks. When suddenly Renok speaks up. "Look, I need a job. Do you have any jobs for the magician?" But the bartender didn't seem to hear him. He was still minding his own business. After an awkward moment of silence, a girl comes behind the bar and says, "Hey, we're out of time. I'm going to take a little nap, and you guys are doing what? Wow, she's so gorgeous." And then, the bartender points to the Reno and says, "Madam, this man says he's a magician." The girl looked at him and says with a surprised look, "A magician? Doesn't sound like it." "Well, wizards are rare, so I don't care about appearances. I'm Jenny. What's your name, weirdo?" I thought about it for a while and realized I can't reveal my real name. After a second of silence, he speaks. "My name is Van." Jenny, leaning on the bar stool with a sexy face, says, "Van, someone must have told you about this place. Isn't that right? And you're looking for a job, I take it? What are your skills? Tell me. I won't see you as a mage if you have any of the usual tricks in your arsenal. You don't need to reveal all your secrets. However, I need to understand what level of mage you are." But the kid decided not to tell her, but to show her. Electric charge was his main trump card. Jenny was very surprised to see his powers. After all, magicians with electricity hadn't been seen in over 1,000 years. She was also surprised that he was able to activate the spell without a magic circle. She gave him a contract. To have a wizard like that as an ally. A great advantage. When suddenly Jenny asks, "You're looking for a job, but you don't care what you do." To which the guys reply to her, "Almost. I'm not gonna lie to people." After Renok now Van's seen the contract. The girl pulls out a clipboard and says, "You'll be the hunter. We'll pay you as soon as we see the results." His first target was Tyler Evans. He's a janitor, but escaped 3 days ago after trying to steal Achilles' security equipment. After reading this, Van says, "Attempts. So he didn't succeed? There's no way a regular janitor could have hacked the security system." Jenny says, "The thing is, all the other janitors were killed. That's when Tyler escaped. Then Achilles tasked us to capture him. Since the steward to whom he belongs has refused to get involved, we will have no problem." But Van was interested in the size of the reward. Jenny says, 3 million isn't too much. But for catching a rat, it's not a small price to pay. By taking a closer look at Tyler's file, Van says you were able to get his blood work. "Can I get more information?" Jenny was surprised at such a request, however, saying, "I can give it to you. But what's the use? If you want to use mage's blood for capture, don't. They're greedy idiots who ask for 5 million per order." But Renok had another plan. He could use a couple of common spells to help him find the right person. The common magic from his memories is what he remembers from World 2.0. The number of its levels is gradually growing, which is nothing short of gratifying. is the most appropriate magic for this mission. Hunter class magic from version 2.0, when suddenly his eyes glowed bright red, and his aura turned burgundy like blood. It's the blood chase spell. Around the scrap of cloth with Tyler's blood on it, a magic circle appeared that spewed a large amount of energy. A moment later, this energy took the form of a cobra. Rannoch's strength is simply astonishing. A bloody serpent led him to an abandoned train station, where homeless people lived on the platforms. Rannoch found Tyler in a matter of hours. Most mages would have taken days. When the kite found Tyler, he stopped. And you went off like a bomb. Tyler, exhausted, turned around and whispered, "What was that?" When suddenly a Rannoch appeared out of the red mist, his eyes still glowing red. Tyler knew he was being hunted. So as soon as he saw the wizard, he knew. He ran as fast as he could. He couldn't understand how the Rannoch had found him. Rannoch came in here fully prepared for battle. He didn't expect Tyler to start running away right away. The case on the outside was not easy. With a body like that, he would have trouble running, and he wasn't completely sure of the effectiveness of his long-range attacks. As soon as the spell reached him, he immediately fell to the floor. He was on the floor, writhing in pain. Blood was pouring from his ears. I guess the Wren had misjudged his strength and overdone it a little, but you could tell by the look on his face that he didn't care about Tyler. He just came closer and said, "You shouldn't have run away from me." When suddenly there was the sound of a gunshot, and Rennick's defense barrier went off. But that shot was clearly not aimed at him. The sniper was aiming at Tyler. Turning around, hoping to see Shooter, the Rannoch says, "The bullet came as if out of nowhere, while I decided to put up a protective barrier. Realizing he's in the palm of his hand, decided to activate another solar barrier reinforcement spell. He has to hold on at least a little bit, even if an anti-tank missile comes at him. The priority right now was to find Arrow, so he used a scanning spell, but the scanner shows no one within a kilometer. It's unlikely that a human could have shot from a greater distance so accurately, which means the shooter is either farther away or using camouflage to avoid simple detection. Well, who'd want to shoot Tyler? What secrets are you keeping? I'm not the only one after you. Probably someone who wants the guy to shut up forever. Well, that's none of my business. But if he's preventing me from accomplishing my mission, that changes things." Rannoch pulled out his gun and pointed it right at Tyler's head. Rannoch has no intention of letting go of the sniper who tried to kill Tyler in front of him. We can't let Van's hunter image be destroyed. Rannoch put a bullet right in Tyler's forehead. The more people think Van cold-blooded cruel, the less people will be willing to get in his way. When Sniper saw what Rannoch had done, he was stunned and didn't know what to do next. After all, the target had been eliminated. The shooter's excessive emotion gave away his location. Now the Rannoch knew exactly where the shooter was sitting. The moment he killed Tyler, his mom freaked out. The sniper immediately realized he'd been discovered. He needs to get out of position immediately. But Rannoch didn't want to let him go so easily. The sniper was less than a kilometer away, and Rannoch had the right spell for that, by collecting enough mana. He thought, "Among the ordinary magic, I remember the one I can control with my eyes closed. Electrical magic like lightning." Rannoch decided to get to Shooter with that spell. The sniper, seeing what Rannoch had done in his scope, was surprised. He sincerely didn't understand why he was using magic, when suddenly the cloudless sky turned into a thunderstorm. The sniper couldn't believe his eyes. Was it really this guy's magic, he asked himself? It's time to attack. Rannoch used the Thunder Call spell. It allowed him to direct the lightning strike. After something like that, no human being could have survived. The light from the explosion was so bright that it illuminated the entire city. Rannoch himself did not expect his attack to be so strong. Seeing the destruction his attack caused, he thought, "It's a whole different level from what I've seen in the game. Now it's safe to tell everyone I'm a lightning wizard, just like Zeus." But for now, use magic constantly, Rannoch was having a very hard time. Every attack like this exhausted him physically. Arriving at the spot where the shooter had been, the Rannoch looked around and said, "Damn, Sniper must have gotten away. I doubt it was a regular person, but there's no point in chasing him. I think I've made it pretty clear you don't want to mess with me. That should be enough to get the name Van, Lightning Wizard, all over town." Rannoch walked back to the bar and brought Tyler with him. Saw him, the bartender sighed and whispered, "There's a back door behind the building. Could you go in from there? I'll get my bag and you can go in first." The old man starts exhuming, and he said, "If you're here on business, please enter through this door. I guess I'm getting old and a monument to hell for forgetting to tell you about it." The old man asked for a few moments before presenting the reward for a completed hunt. After examining Tyler's body, the old man says, "Cause of death, gunshot wound to the head. I don't see any traces of magic, all organs intact, so it's definitely Tyler. Rannoch was surprised at such professionalism of the old man. He couldn't help but ask him, I'm sorry. Were you a pathologist? The old man answers him, no, but something like that. Would you like your reward now? You're really 2,700,000 without the 10% commission. If you would like to receive your money in another way, there will be an additional charge. Rannoch asks in amazement. Another? How's that? Pay. You can get bonds, stocks. You can also transfer to a shell account in a bank. There are times when it is difficult to ask for money laundering. As a friend, Jenny walks into the room and says with a smile on her face, Uh-oh. Who do we have here? You could tell by the look on her face that she was genuinely happy to see him. That was fast. I take it you need money fast, huh? At first glance, you couldn't tell Jenny was doing anything illegal. Usually other hunters have to spend more time searching than killing. What's your secret? That you could find him and kill him so quickly? Unwilling to reveal his secrets. Rannoch says with absolute indifference, There's no secret, I just got lucky. Jenny knew he was lying. But she didn't want to bother him. So suddenly she said, Good. Still, I think you're really talented, and now we can continue working with you. Rannoch, he says, I won't tell if you throw me a couple more assignments in the near future. To which he gets the answer, No. We have other things to worry about right now. We must return everything to Achilles. We seem to be on the same page, but it takes time to earn full trust. It's kind of like a dating situation. Renaud has nothing more to do here. Besides this job, he's got a lot of unfinished business. When Rannoch is gone, the old man holds out the girl's tablet and says, You're gonna see this is a must-see. I looked on the janitorial network and found something. The next morning, Rannoch came to the city library. He came here to learn about the magic system of this world. He must also find a way to extend the life of the Rannoch, one whose life force is draining away like water. His body grows weaker by the day. Time-related magic. Maybe he can find information on higher magic. He had already read over 100 books of various techniques and spells, but only one seemed truly useful. This book on the structure of mana. He read in a book that if you press on the points where mana flows, it will reveal its structure. It also says in the book that some archmages can change it. To get a better look at the structure of his, many better, he decided to enlarge its streams. He noticed that the pattern changed depending on how much mana he was pouring in. This is very interesting. Only mages of higher equations can change their mana structure. While he was studying magic books. Well, he didn't realize it was evening and the reading rooms were empty. After reading enough literature, he thought, It's a little different than I thought it would be. But after these books, my view of magic has completely changed. The magical arts can be divided into two categories: ordinary and unique. Unique. This is a type of magic that every mage can be trained in, but it is more specialized and powerful. Ordinary magic is inferior to unique magic, but has an extremely wide variation of use regardless of attributes and purposes. There was no mention of ordinary magic in this world, but then how did I use it? No matter how talented a Rannoch was, he couldn't change the very concept of magic and create something that wasn't here. Now he had even more questions. And he still hadn't found any time-related magic, when suddenly a girl in a short miniskirt comes up to him and says, Already decided to give up? If I understand correctly, from your books, you want to be a magician, don't you? The girl casually put the business card in his inside jacket pocket and said, To be honest, you're very strange. If you need advice, now you know where to go. As she walks away, the girl says in a sexy voice, Next time we meet, I'll show you some magic. When she left, the Rannoch said, You're the weird one. On the business card the girl gave me said, Labatinen University, Department of Elemental Magic, Professor Aris Richelin. Rannoch couldn't get that girl out of his mind. He couldn't understand how she had become a professor at such a young age. Though he was a great wizard, his body demanded ordinary human food. Walking past the cafe, the Rannoch thought, If I make my own food for this body, it's healthier than from a restaurant. When suddenly he sees a policeman checking people for IDs. He should never let them see him. Trying to calm himself down, he says, Calmly. I have to stay calm so they don't suspect me of anything. It's not me they're looking for, of course. It's just a routine ID check. As he is suddenly interrupted by a woman's voice that says, Hey, you, Rannoch. At first I didn't realize if the girl was talking to him or if she was on the phone. And then the girl says, Are you doing something illegal or what? How did she find out about it? You kept your eyes on the mana sample check, like you were involved in something criminal. Mana is like a fingerprint in this world. It's used to check people's fingerprints. The girl abruptly changes the subject and says, "So why are you here?" Rainak notices that she has a lot of fruits and vegetables on her counter. That's just what he needs. They have an interesting dialogue where the boy learns that this girl owns a shop. Growing fruits and vegetables is her hobby. Sparkle ran between them. Rainak got a little embarrassed and thought, I can't tell if she's joking or not, but she's very pretty. But it doesn't matter. But the girl interrupted the silence and asked him, "Look, are you going to stand there like a pole? Or are you going to buy something?" Not confused, Rainak immediately answers her, "Wait a second. I'm just thinking about what to get." When suddenly the girl holds out a huge onion to him and says, "Take this. This is a type of onion that helps with insomnia. You think you need this right now?" To be honest, Rainak knew he looked no better than a dead man himself. But that was the price of the power he possessed. After a little thought, Rainak says, "Then put in a couple, 5 more green onions and 6 peppers, please." When all of a sudden the girl doesn't make a sound and says, "Oh yeah, I wanted to tell you. Your mom is amazing and unique. What's a magician like you doing here?" So Rainak answers her, "I don't know what you're talking about. I'm just an ordinary student. I'd remember you if I'd seen you before. You're new to the Balkans, aren't you?" This girl was really starting to get on Rainak's nerves. He didn't understand who she was. Not only could she figure out that I was a mage, but she was talking about mana patterns. The girl holds out a bag of groceries to him and says, "You owe me 32,000. Rainak wanted to get out of there, so he gave money and left as fast as he could. The question remains as to how she saw his mana structure through the protective barrier. Even the police need special equipment, and this woman has kept her own eyes open. Either she has some kind of skill or she's a very powerful magician. Shit, and my mom could be found out by a stranger. We need to do something about that." After that day, he spent time in his room studying magic and its intricacies. He did it all to increase the effectiveness of his spells. The normal magic he already possessed. But he still couldn't find a nag to the unique magic, even though he could feel it inside him with every cell of his body. In the meantime, his health was rapidly deteriorating. The usual medicines were no longer helpful. O realized since he was now dependent on his medications, he needed more money. To buy better drugs, and for that, you need an ID card. Well, in his short stay in this town, Rainak had made some connections that could help him with this case. And naturally, he came to Jenny, asked her to make him an ID. She, despite laughing, says, "Who do you think I am? Of course I'm going to do it, but it's going to cost a lot." The market wondered how much she wanted for this service. After a little thought, the girl says, "As a local employee, I'll give you a discount. So a new passport will cost you 20 million. Rainak fails to say a word. He hears the girl say to him, "But don't sweat it. I just found a job for you. There's a lot you can do with your magic." Since Rainak needed the money very quickly, he immediately asked what he had to do. Jenny exhaled heavily and said, "It's a little off the beaten path. It's a mission from the company. Yeah, you get paid more money than a simple hunter's job. Van, I know you prefer hunting, but when it comes to earning a large sum of money, it's better to do orders from the company. You don't like chasing crazy criminals, do you?" But here he interrupts her and speaks with full confidence and firmness in his voice. "Not at all. I don't care what the job is, as long as it pays well." All right. Whatever you say, let's go talk somewhere else." To be honest, such an offer was a bit of a surprise. When they were alone, Jenny decided to tell him the details of the assignment. Mission objective: a new cosmetics factory by Charlotte Corporation in the 42nd Ward. 80% of the construction fee was financed by the state, so it's kind of dramatic. The moisturizers they make are clearly being tested on humans. The factory produced an anti-aging drug. It was even able to regenerate dead cells, as evidence that people were skinned alive in experiments. The manufacturer clearly doesn't care about anything but profit. After listening to her, the renegade says, "But the case is solved and everything is clear. What more do you need?" But the girl replies in a fury, "What are you talking about? They haven't even taken the factories away." The company wisely got the government involved as a sponsor, so their case came up with rumors and whatnot. So, our customer is this company called Veritas Corporation. They've recently gotten into the cosmetics business, and they want to remove Charlotte. They also put 2 conditions on the job. 1, after the infiltration, they'll pay 350 million to steal cosmetics data from the factory. If that's not to your liking, there's a second option. They will pay 50 million for destroying the plant with no possibility of rebuilding. After a little thought, the guy says, "Ha, the first one sounds like Mission Impossible. Jenny was in solidarity with him in this opinion and felt that the customer was not paying extra for such an assignment. Maybe not just thinking someone stupid would bite. In fact, it's a request to destroy the factory. Has thought it over in detail, and he's going on this mission. Destroying the factory is easier for him than taking candy from a child. Jenny was infinitely glad he explained. In a childish voice, she said, "Great. Then I'll introduce you to your partner." What? You didn't say I'd be working in pairs. Renoka's frustration was understandable. After all, he wants to hide his real capabilities until the last minute, when all of a sudden there's this weird noise coming from the door, and a guy in red tights bursts into the room. And to be perfectly honest, his costume is painfully familiar. It's not Deadpool. Also had a squeaky voice like he was 5 years old. Seeing him, Renok thought, God, what an idiot I have to work with. Jenny decides to introduce them before they go on a mission together. Turns out the idiot in the red suit's name is Dylan O'Casey. He's an anti-stress mercenary. He was also known for being willing to work for paltry sums, while Van got up from the couch. Dylan and Jenny were whispering, "Hey Jenny, don't you know that first impressions are very important? What he'll think of me if you lead me on like this." The girl smiled and answered him, "Maybe you're the masked psycho." Since they had no choice but to work together, they decided to get to know each other. And Dylan says, "So, you're my partner in this mission? I hear you have magic." Renok answers him, "Yes, that's right. My name is Van, and I'm a lightning mage." Dylan starts shaking his hand like crazy. And the Renok asks Jenny, "Look, why do I need a partner?" A slightly sad voice answers him, "Because I think it's going to be hard to do it all at once." But then Dylan barges in and says, "Don't worry, I could have done it myself." But Jenny insisted on 2 people wearing it, didn't she? Dylan was starting to piss her off even more. She was ready to punch him right in the face. But then Renok says I'd rather know in advance that I'd have to work with someone. So we're splitting the 50 million in half. But let's not forget Jenny's share. But then she says, "I made a mistake this time, so I'm not taking anything. Divide the spoils as you see fit." Renok was surprised to hear that. He couldn't believe she'd immediately admit she was wrong. She's not as simple as I thought. Maybe she's just trying to find out my weaknesses. Giving up my share is a good way to make amends. But was the deprivation really wrong? Well, at the very least, I can always leave and not work with her anymore. In any case, I'm in the lead in our relationship. And then Jenny screamed, "All right, now that that's settled, why don't we take a look at the layout of the factory?" Finished, they came from 42 neighborhoods. In contrast to the 50-plus neighborhood, neighborhoods from the 40th and below have better infrastructure. However, all neighborhoods are fairly well supplied and developed. Factory is in good condition and is located in the 42nd district. To the surprise of our friends, the streets were completely empty. When all of a sudden, Dylan decided to ask, "Look, Van, Jenny seems to have a lot of respect for you, doesn't she? She doesn't usually give up money so easily. She always takes interest, but now she won't. I think she wants to maintain a good relationship with you. Jenny never did that to me." Listening to him, the Renok was greatly surprised. He heard their whole conversation at the bar. I wonder if his mask is a cover so no one recognizes him. As we friend stops and holds out a business card to him and says, "Oh, you can have this." Renok asks him in amazement, "A business card? Why would I need one?" But Dylan tells him, "Well, you don't have to work at just one place." Renok, taking a better look at this business card, asks him, "Are you trying to gain my trust now? You know, there's not a lot of good magicians around these days. Plus, you could use the money. It will be good for you too. Even though our office is not popular yet, we have many people who are in great physical shape just like me. But please keep our whole conversation private about Jenny. I don't want to ruin things with her." Renok only smiled. But it was time to work too. A little while later, Renok couldn't stand it and said, "You're a master of the tongue. Let's see you in action, Deadpool." Finally, they came. However, the factory was heavily guarded and the perimeter was surrounded. Scouting the situation, the renegade says, "We're clear. The guards don't cause me any concern. They look too flimsy." At this time, the case was polishing his knife. After a little thought, he replies, "Of course you are. Because you'd have to be crazy to break into a Charlotte. I wouldn't even look in their direction if Veritz hadn't gotten us the assignment. But don't underestimate them. They're from the 888 Security Bureau. They're former thugs. Compared to the other guards, they're not even considered human." And in a very low, almost feminine voice. "Which means they can be destroyed, and it's not a conscience issue. And one more question. Are you going to work with an open face? Maybe their security isn't that good, but shining a light on your face isn't worth it, don't you think? As Dylan suddenly holds out a balaclava to him, which had a plastic nose and huge red lips. But Rennox says he doesn't need a mask. He's already wearing it.